Hi, Neil O'Brien again. We're on to Finance 3, which is cost reduction. And, after increasing your selling price, which goes straight to the bottom line, cost reduction is another key one. It's a great one because it's very immediate. If you review your costs and you save 5 grand, 10 grand, that goes straight to your profits the same way as selling price increases. So it's a great one to look at. And, I find that when you put a bit of time into cost reduction, you nearly always get benefits. So I have 6 different areas to go through. The first one is to review all your direct debits and standing orders. So, the way in your personal spend, you might have Netflix or your phone or whatever, you set up a direct debit and it goes out every month. And it's the same in business. What happens sometimes is we set up a monthly payment and it goes out and we forget about it and we may not be using it. We may not get value for it. So it's a great idea with online banking, go back, get a few months bank statements and review all your direct debits and standing orders and look at each one and say, do we still need it? Are we getting value from it? And you'll find quite often there could be a chunk of old direct debits in there that you can actually remove and cancel. There could be things like marketing campaigns you did or other software products you're signed up to that you don't actually use anymore or need. So that's a really good one to do. And you will get savings, almost guaranteed you get savings if you go through that. Now, second one is your biggest supplier costs. So these are more variable amounts. If you're a product business, you will be buying in materials and ingredients and so on. And even if you're a service business like myself, and many of you probably are, you will still have services you're buying. You might have accounting, banking, phones, insurance, and so on. But a really good idea to go and look at your biggest costs and shop around. Go to the market and get 3 quotes, the way you might do for your car insurance. You can do the same for any of your other costs, and you will get savings. Recently, I did it with somebody, and we got significant savings on our accounting and marketing and insurance. And what you can do is, often people say, well, I don't want to switch supplier, and that's fine. What you can do is go to your existing supplier with the cheaper price you got. We did that with an accountant recently with one client. We got a saving of $2,500 on their accounting bill. We went back to his existing accountant, explained we went to the market. We can get this accounting done 2.5 grand cheaper down the road. I think the bill was 14 grand. So we got a 2.5 grand reduction, and the accountant didn't want to lose the business. So he accepted that he accepted basically that he was going to give us the same service for 2.5 grand cheaper because he didn't want to lose it. So quite often, if you go and shop around, you get a cheaper price, you can bring it back to your existing supplier and they will probably match it because they don't want to lose you as a customer. So you don't have to switch supplier. Now, the next one is budget and comparing your actual costs to budget. It's a really good idea to have a monthly review, to have a budget for all your business costs. I remember one example of somebody I worked with a couple of years ago. They were kind of in the medical devices area. And the previous year, their sales had gone up 2%. Their costs had gone up 14%. There was 5 costs that had gone up significantly. So their profit margins, their profits dropped, even though the sales went up. And, again, it's very common in business for us to be focused on our sales and forget about costs. So the budget is a really good example. If they had a budget in place and they reviewed it monthly, you would see, like, for example, if you spend $300 a month on your phones and you have a budget, and the next thing the bills are coming in at $350, $360, $380, that will jump out if you have a budget and you're reviewing it and you're looking at the variances. So again, budget is a really good thing to try and keep your costs in control. Zero cost budgeting is a little used technique, and again, it can identify savings. Normally at budget time, if you have a cost of let's say 2,000, you might look at it and say, well, maybe that'll go up by 5 or 10%, you bump it up. With zero cost budgeting, you bring everything back to zero and you say, well, what if we didn't have this cost? And it makes you look at it differently. One example I always remember is a company that had their own they had their own warehousing, and they had 3 external warehouses that they used the whole year round. And we looked at it and said, well, what if they didn't have that cost? Well, then they'd have to keep all their stock in-house. So we started looking at the capacity, and it turned out they didn't need 3 external warehouses. They only needed 1. And that was a saving of 120,000 per year. And they were delighted with that approach. Benchmarking is where you compare your costs to other similar businesses out there. And what you often find is that some of your costs are out of kilter with your sector. You may be spending, again, more on phones, insurance, professional indemnity is a big cost for a lot of professionals, your marketing, your accounting services. If you can compare your costs to similar businesses out there, you'll probably find that some of yours are higher than the norm. And that can lead you to go investigate it and say, well, why is it higher? And possibly get it down. And the last one is to ask your employees for ideas. Your team members are at the coalface, they're dealing with clients, they're there in the business, they will see stuff that maybe you don't see, and they will have ideas. So why not ask them for their ideas? And if you take one of their ideas and implement it and it saves you money, you can have, you can reward staff with vouchers and so on and encourage them. And, it's good for them to have an input into the business as well. So there's 6 cost reduction ideas. As I said earlier, the great thing about cost reduction is that it goes straight to your bottom line. I've often found myself, even in my own business, anytime I invest a bit of time in looking at these areas, I always get cost savings, and you will find the same. So well worth looking at cost reduction. Thanks for listening.